Inhabitants of Mokonje village in the southwest region of Cameroon boycott government's humanitarian aid. The divisional officer of the Kumba 3 subdivision was in the village to offer humanitarian aid from the government to the people, but nobody showed up to receive the aid from the Yaoundé administration. And some Cameroonians have qualified the upcoming national dialogue convened by the President of the Republic as a full stop to the Anglophone crisis. But there are several question marks on the upcoming national dialogue, with several persons, notably civil society and political leaders, saying that it has already failed. Those were our top stories. Preparations are rounding up ahead of the national dialogue scheduled for September 30 to the 4th of October 2019 in Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé, an event convened by the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, to find a way out of the Anglophone crisis and other socio-political problems affecting the Republic of Cameroon. And according to the governors of the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and of course members of the delegation from the two crisis-hit regions, the people of those regions are demanding for an accelerated federal decentralization in order to solve the problems that provoked the crisis in the two regions. And of course, the proposals from the two regions were tabled at the Prime Ministry yesterday in Yaoundé. Details in this report by EQUINOXE.
The national dialogue time is close at hand. Some optimistic Cameroonians showcase a feeling of satisfaction and joy, as according to them, normalcy will return in the far north region, and particularly the northwest and southwest regions in crisis, whose armed conflict has caused unity and the arts of living together bleed. Marie Solange, heading an association of women fighting for equality and a better Cameroon, believes the disgruntled population must be listened to on the dialogue table. They highly believe the national dialogue, convened principally for the people of the two English-speaking regions, will solve all the problems Anglophones had raised and fighting against.
Puisque c'est eux aujourd'hui à l'honneur, les anglophones, elle va se résoudre parce que nous avons à la tête de notre pays un homme pondéré.
Insignificance of war has also been projected.
Franchement, là où il y a la guerre, nous avons vu la guerre autour de nous.
This other woman notes war has only brought sorrow, misery, and many others. She calls on sons and daughters of the northwest and southwest regions to seize this opportunity given by the head of state Paul Biya to sort things out and end the unnecessary war, which rather divides than unites for a developed Cameroon.
Et qu'on reste un et indivisible.
While thanking the head of state Paul Biya for calling a national dialogue, the women leaders hope to, at the end of the dialogue, see return to normalcy, peace, unity, living together, and stability regained for an emerging Cameroon.
After the governors and delegations of the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon to the national dialogue tabled the proposals from the two regions at the Star Building yesterday, some chiefs of the southwest region granted a press conference today in Yaoundé. It should be recalled that some of them, notably those from the FACO division, had earlier requested for a 10-state federal system, a return to the federal system, but with 10 states in the country. And of course, this did not figure in the proposals tabled yesterday by the governor of the southwest region, Benau Kalebilaya, and his delegation. Rather, decentralization was what was highlighted by the delegation from the southwest region. Take a listen to some of the chiefs who spoke to our reporters in Yaoundé.
I am His Majesty Chief Reverend Dr. Ekoka Molindo, the Vice President of the Southwest Chief Conference and the spokesperson for the FACO Chiefs Conference. With regards to the crisis, we, the FACO people, are resolute in that we stand for a one and indivisible Cameroon. This crisis has caused a lot of harm on the economy of Fako division and on our population. And we think that the earlier it can stop, the better. We also went down to the grassroots to meet the fighters in the bushes, and for them to echo what they feel the head of state and the prime minister, head of government, should know about why they went to the bush in the first place. And I think their voices can be heard through us if they cannot come because they are afraid of their security. And we are going to speak their mind. And they think that we should have a 10 or more state federation which will permit the local states to control certain aspects of their development rather than everything concentrating in the center. They gave examples of teachers and workers who have to follow their dossiers, even the retirement people. They have to come to Yaoundé, go from office to office. Sometimes their French is not very good and they are sent back empty-handed. But if they can only go to the headquarters, maybe in Boya, and solve their problem, it will reduce the tension. So we are now echoing them that we are proposing what they have proposed, that the government should look into the state of government, that a 10 or more state, we can divide it federation so that people can better articulate. The other area that they wanted us to speak is employment. 70% or 80% of youths who have diplomas are not working because maybe the education system doesn't favor the entry into the job market easily. And they are thinking that if CDC and PAMOL, all those agro industries are revamped, it will absorb them. And a hungry man is an angry man. And we can look at the bottom of all of this, we see that unemployment is a major issue. And the youth.
On to one of our lead stories. The people of Mokonje village in the southwest region of the country were absent in the locality when the division officer for Kumba 3 went there to offer humanitarian aid from the government, and of course the people boycotted the humanitarian aid from government. They are said to have been threatened by separatist fighters not to go out to receive the humanitarian aid. Details with Manjik and Gebre.
Military men on the watch for any surprise attack. And residents of Mokonje village are all indoors after being threatened by alleged separatist fighters not to show themselves as the divisional officer for Kumba 3 paid a visit to the village under her jurisdiction.
I had information that people who were hiding in the bushes had started coming back to their homes to start back their normal lives, which is why I decided to come down here today to come and encourage them and accompany them in this bold step that they had decided to take, and to let them know that the government was with them and was ready to accompany them in every difficulty that they had. To also see how even the activities can start back with CDC, because as you can see, the CDC factory has been abandoned now for over a year, and most of them have been without jobs. They even called me, the workers called me, that I should try to see everything, how CDC can start back for them to get their jobs back.
As such, the divisional officer for Kumba 3 had to move door to door to talk with the frightened inhabitants of Mokonje village.
Okay.
Apart from visiting Mokonje village, the divisional officer also made a stopover at the Cameroon Development Corporation factory of Mokonje, which has stopped production since the crisis started, hoping that activities will soon start again.
Remember now,
to the separatist fighters,
heed to the head of state's call for peace. There's a dialogue that has really been announced and which is ongoing, which is one of the reasons that I even came here to get their own opinion about what they think, because it's an inclusive dialogue and everybody's voice as the head of state, everybody's voice should be heard.
Because the population was afraid to turn out, the food that was destined to them was taken back by the divisional officer, Epolewane Veclin, to be redistributed another day.
And the living conditions of several persons displaced by the Anglophone crisis and who are now seeking refuge in different parts of the country, including the littoral and the west regions, have continued deteriorating. Many of them have not yet received aid from the government, and of course many of them are living in very precarious conditions. Inosenazi has the details.
We are in Lum in the Mungo division of the Littoral region, hosting thousands of internally displaced persons. This makeshift apartment hosts 16 persons from my 16 Boya in the restive southwest region. The armed conflict, which has crippled businesses and agricultural activities, pushed them to Lum.
Because the things that I brought from my store in Boya, I just packed them in the house, and they are only getting expired, I'm throwing them out. They are getting expired, I'm throwing them. And that is the whole capital burning like that. So I'm in Lum now. I don't even have something doing. We are now 16.
Though in Lum, neighboring the country-hit southwest region, life is not rosy.
Here too, it's not easy. It's really difficult. You know, leaving your hometown, coming to a land that you don't know anybody, you have not cultivated any crops, you are buying everything, and the money too is not first of all there. You are not doing anything to add income. So the situation is really horrible.
It is a new school year, but these children who have been out of school for 3 years and living with their uncles in the bush before abandoning them for Lum are yet to resume education.
That is really our concern, because we came here for them to go to school. They have been in the bush for long. They have not bought any book. We have not sold uniform, nothing. The money that we had, we just went and registered them. And we are hoping that maybe God will bless also that we can even buy 2 books for each person.
Apart from difficulties faced in sending these children to school, feeding is also a major issue.
To feed is really difficult for us. It's really difficult because there are times that they eat only one time and they are not full. So it makes the children, they are getting sick.
If not poorly prepared rice, this family of 16 would turn to the cheapest commodity, gari. Gari, which is soaked in water without sugar, yet scrambled over by the children. This is consumed at times in the morning, afternoon, and even the subsequent day. To ensure these children, 10 in number, do not starve just for a day, their fathers who have abandoned their cocoa farms in the southwest region now depend on odd jobs, no matter where they are found.
One person came and took them yesterday. They went to one place called Lamba, inside Lum like that, called Lamba. They go there, they cannot come back today, and that place does not have network, so there are there 3 of them. When they work job, they will stay there like for 5 days. They come back, they give us money, we manage, just like that.
Another situation is sleeping comfortably when it is nightfall. This lone light, old and torn mattress is on which the children sleep. This chair is occupied by 2 adults. A precarious living condition decried by the IDPs themselves, begging governments to redress the armed conflicts and assist internally displaced persons wherever they are found.
I'm pleading that the government should try and intervene in this matter, because we have now become beggars. At first, nobody know. I used to work my money, I feed my children, I even cater for the needy. But today I've become somebody that is begging, because I can tell you that I'm now a beggar. They can even reach us, try to help us with food.
They keep managing to survive while awaiting hierarchy to engage in a genuine dialogue to end the crisis. So they return to their beloved localities in the northwest and southwest regions.
English-speaking Cameroonians kicked out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, living in heartbreaking conditions in Lom in the littoral region of the country. And this is, of course, the situation of hundreds of thousands of others who are in other parts of the country and some who are refugees in neighboring Nigeria. And back in the country, to talk about the IDPs, more than 1,000 of them received aid from the Minister of Territorial Administration at Tanganji Paul today in Bonaberi in the Douala 4 subdivision instead of the 1,000 that was expected as indicated by the registration that was done before. More than 1,000, more than 2,000 showed up to receive the humanitarian aid from the government, and the Minister of Territorial Administration at Tanganji Paul was personally handing over the aid to the displaced persons and some financial aid, some money to help them survive for a period of time. And of course, the minister spoke to a reporter, EQUINOXE. Take a listen.
Are we together? My brothers and sisters, are we together? We are one. Hey, we are together. We are one. Mommy and Papa, are we together? We are one. Hey, we are together. We are one. Yaoundé and Bamenda, are we together? We are one. Hey, we are together. We are one.
Every person who is here today, we have about 1,000 families, that is about 4,000 persons, but sincerely, it's a process where they have to go through registration at the local level. The DOs have to do the registration so that when my ministry comes for distribution, people are clearly identified. And when they are clearly identified, the process is easy. However, those who are outside will still have to take them because there is something for every person. But what we tell people that they have to go through the normal process at the local level for registration. You understand? And we are doing simultaneously distribution in Bamenda and Douala. And I think by the end of, I can say next month or in 2 months, we would have touched all the internally displaced people in Cameroon, because we have touched all the 7 divisions in the northwest region and all the 6 divisions in the southwest. So our main target are those who are out of those divisions in Douala, in Bafoussam, in Yaoundé, and we have a program for them. But the message is that as for now, it is distribution, assistance, but we are going towards development because we want them to be self-reliant. It's very important. So in about 6 months, the president will put a new program where we'll accompany the displaced families to go back to their respective regions and start something, because most of them, they have to start from scratch, which is very important. So, and there's another message. President Paul Biya has given firm instructions that the enrollment of children from the IDP parents must be facilitated on all the schools. That is facilitation. He has given instruction that we should facilitate the enrollment of children of the internally displaced persons in all the schools in Cameroon. And I think that, those instructions were reiterated by the Prime Minister of Government yesterday, and we are in that process.
Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration at Tanganji Paul speaking there to Innocent Abeg, and for me, Armstrong Sanda equally interviewed some of the IDPs. Take a listen.
Very happy for what the government has done to us, for what the president has done to us. We're not expecting it, but by the grace of God, he has done it again. We have received mattress, rice, soap, tomatoes, bucket, and blanket. I'll manage it with all my families, but by the grace of God, I believe this one is not small, and I believe everything will go better.
All I can say is that I'm glad, I'm happy for what the government have done for us. All I can say again is to only thank the government. Thank you, President Paul Biya, once more.
It's a very big joy to me. I cannot know how to spend the joy.
Today I just say I'm a bit happy, not really happy, because not all of us are here to have the little opportunity we had, to have the little things we had. Not all of us are here, but the ones I have, I'm so happy. Though from the beginning, it was really tough. When they came and asked me to register my name, I was just afraid. Someone just came from nowhere with a list that I should write my name on it without explaining to me. So because of that, really I was scared. When I asked, he just said it was for protection. So the reason why I even wrote my name was that on my mind, I thought if they want to send us back to Bamenda, well, Bamenda is my place, Northwest is my home. So even they send me back, I'm happy. I will still go back. Even if I die, I will still die as a son of the soil. So I will not come and die somewhere else.
It will help us a lot. This groundnut oil, the mattress, we will use for a very long time. Thank you, people.
What are the things that you have received?
I have received groundnut oil, savon, mattress, blanket, and tolero with tomato. It's very difficult, very, very difficult, because we are sitting in one room. We have, we are 5 of us in one room house. We are renting the we are paying how much? 15,000 for the one room. You see now, and for us to get something to eat, it's not easy.
Those were some of the internally displaced persons living in the Douala 4 municipalities speaking to Innocent Abega and for me, Armstrong Sanders, shortly after receiving humanitarian aid from Cameroon's Minister of Territorial Administration, Tanganji Paul. Coming up next, Talking Point. We are receiving a politician, a political analyst. Tayong Elvis is a member of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM, political party. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Babila. Jonathan, it's my pleasure marking present here after some time.
The CRM may not be taking part in the upcoming national dialogue, as indicated by the delegation that went to the Prime Ministry, which said that if your leaders are not released, you're not going to be taking part in it.
Yeah, obviously clear. I think that was done in a clear memorandum that was quite laid down on paper. That's on the 17th of September. And of course, our Vice President, Madam Noah, handed that personally to the Prime Minister, His Excellency Chief Dr. John Gotim. And the points in it were clear, were quite in clear terms, because we think that even when, the Prime Minister was like, but others could attend on our behalf, Our Vice President made it clear, because there are certain aspects that could be mastered or are well presented by our President than others. And so we think that in an aspect of genuine dialogue, we should see some stakeholders, those who are in prison should come out, and they should also be on the table for the dialogue. So the points were quite made, and if you permit me, I could touch a few of the points, because the issues of releasing all those detained during the Anglophone crisis, and also those who are detained during the post-electoral period too, including the President, should also be included. And the issue of, we called clearly that certain topics should not be like a taboo. The issues of form of state should be there. Electoral reform should equally be there. There should be the need to review the issues of human rights in the country. And we also spoke clearly that amongst all of those things too, it's also good that major decisions equally, as far as the independence of the judiciary, should be brought up, because this is what we talk about dialogue. Because if you look at what we're mentioning, the problems we have now, then when lawyers were on strike, the judicial system is not independent. So you see, if you look at it critically, human rights violation, judiciary is accused of not being independent or being delegated by the executive. So we looked at all of this holistically and said, above all of that, there should equally be what we call a genuine dialogue that should take place in the presence of international organizations. Talking about the African Union, the European Union, United Nations, because this is what will guarantee the implementation of those decisions. We understand what happened during the tripartite, and so CRM thinks that the dialogue should take place in a way that people should believe that whatever is taken there will be implemented. If not, history might repeat itself.
Among the 8 commissions created, there is a commission on justice, there is a commission on the decentralization. Are these not some of the some indications that what you're talking about, the form of the state, the legal system, would be on the dialogue table? In
the first place, the form of the state is not present there. You have but the Commission on Decentralization, so which tells you that what the government has an agenda as per 1996 Constitution is still what has to be implemented. But we know that the current crisis has to do with the form of the state. So we think that it's not a taboo. The government should put all those forms of the state on the table and then get to convince people, you understand, that no, for this reason we think that decentralization is better than federation or this. It makes more sense in it than putting it totally off. Now, when you look at the issues of Justice Commission put in place and all the like, but you realize that the issue is who are the key actors to be present. That's where the issue comes in. If you have key actors in a conflict that is no longer Anglophone crisis, as the head of state made it, it's now a national issue. If it was Anglophone crisis, we could say that, okay, maybe only Ayuk Tabe and Co should be present. But now that is more of a national issue, as the head of state himself specified. That's why he's getting delegations from all the 10 regions. It equally means that CRM, President-elect Professor Maurice Kamto, is supposed to be on table.
It should, however, be indicated that the president himself said the main focus of the national dialogue is the Anglophone crisis. And talking about the issue of the form of the state, the governors of the 2 Anglophone regions and the delegations that came from the Northwest and the Southwest regions told the Prime Minister, told the press that the people of these 2 regions are asking for effective decentralization. What do you think about that?
Well, in the first place, I want to be candid with you because I talk now as a journalist, and you are a journalist, you could carry out an investigation. And now when you look at it, you discover that in those regions, if it's in the Southwest region, you know, the chiefs themselves had their press conference. Why? Because in the press conference that the FACO chiefs had themselves, they were talking about 10 state federation or more, and I have a copy of that. And then, which means those in the other divisions had a similar idea. If you see them taking a press conference to Yaoundé today, explaining their stand, is because the chiefs are of the fact that their own idea was not implemented in the document that was submitted to the Prime Minister, His Excellency Chief Dr. John Gute. And so in that case, what was presented there was just decentralization. As so I said, we need to be honest somewhere along the line, because if we are not honest, we might get more lives lost and more casualties. And that's what we don't clamor for. There's no individual, normal, born of a woman, who will be happy what is going on now. And so we think that while the chiefs are clamoring, you discover that to them, their own side of the story was not included in the memo from the Southwest region that the governor of the Southwest channeled to the PM. The same scenario, I repeat, also took place in the Northwest region, where what the governor also presented, a handful of the members who were there, especially those from the SDF, some of the parliamentarians I spoke to one-on-one in Yaoundé, told me that their own plight as far as federalism is concerned was not even on it. So, to an extent, I would think that the governors forwarded their own aspect. But for Northwest, when they forwarded, most of the SDF parliamentarians who were part of that team and members equally forwarded theirs to the PM, which the PM received, because, as I said, what I love with the PM is that he received all, whether it is for good or bad. So, but for the Southwest, it was one-sided, and so that's why you see the chiefs having a press conference and complaining in the Yaoundé. I think,
and still concerning the options chosen or being requested by the people, Cardinal Toomey told me in an interview that the Anglophone General Conference, the AGC, sent out about 1,000 questionnaires. And out of the 1,000 questionnaires, over 95% of those who answered wrote that they want absolute independence. And there were 2 options there, decentralization and federalism. Just some few of the persons who answered were between federation and decentralization, but majority of them, about 95%, according to what he told me, said absolute independence. And now the governors say the people want decentralization.
Well, you know, it's a controversial issue. And I said earlier at the level of political analysis that the government itself would have put in place avenues that would permit all the ideas. I was surprised. I was at the PM's building, and I've been going through all the memos that are submitted. And when you talk to people out of it, they will tell you that no, they would love secession to be on the table. But nobody is courageous enough to put that point. You get the point. Why? For fear that they could be arrested or they could be victimized. So if Cardinal Toomey gives you the analysis, I think that is an analysis from a man of God that should be considered with gospel truth. And I think that what the state should do for us is that you take federalism on the table, you take secession or separation on the table, then you take decentralization on the table, and then you dialogue. Now, the state has what it takes to convince whoever is talking about separation that no, decentralization started, this is why we think it should be good. If you are, so you put it on an argumentative or debate matter, so that at the end of it, the state should be able to convince. But when you bury the issue of secession completely, whereas we also know that there are a handful of persons who are just afraid, but in their mind, from the actions, you see that they too want secession, even if The percentage might not be as the same as the cardinal puts it, but my point in it is that the issue of cessation should also be put on the table, so that the three aspects of cessation, decentralization itself, and federalism should be put on the table for genuine dialogue to take place and for us to forge ahead.
To the government, however, it should be indicated that cessation is out of question. The Prime Minister said in Bamenda when he visited the palace of Fonangwafo III of Mankon that no king will accept to separate his kingdom. No king will accept that his kingdom should be divided. So to government, that is out of question. And now the government is bent on decentralization. But when you look at the way things are being organized, the people who will be at the dialogue table, and of course the commissions that have been created and so on, something that there is no hope. What do you think?
Well, I think if I take first from the stand of the CRM, you understand that if CRM says they are not going in for it until their leader, or till, let's say, our leader is released, or until all those connected to the crisis and other terms are met, it's because to the CRM party, the intention is that we will not like a dialogue that becomes futile at the end. You get the point? Because first, as an individual, as a political analyst, I feel so much the amount of money that the state is spending, is running hundreds of millions of francs to sustain this dialogue. And so the question we should be asking ourselves as Cameroonians, what do we benefit if we spend hundreds of millions or billions for a dialogue that at the end does not give us the result? And that's why for CRM, we think that if these measures are put in place, genuinely, alongside with an international, when we talk about international organizations, it's because we understand that somewhere along the line, between the government and the separatists, there's breach of trust, lack of trust. And so we think that when you have a neutral body that comes in to assist in the process, he will be standing by to assure you that whatever decision is arrived at, obviously will be implemented. And so unfortunately, we have said the state has its modus operandi, and we might not be able to overmove into the state issues, but as people who understand how things move and who watch how they move, it is our fundamental right to also comment on it, and that's what we're doing. So CRM staying aside is because CRM looks at it and sees that it might not be. We are not saying people should not attend. We're not saying people should not go. But for us, we think that it will be a daunting task for the results of the expected dialogue to be attained, looking at the manner in which issues are unfolding.
Tayon Elvis, political analyst, member of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. Thanks for coming.
It's my pleasure being with you, and I hope I'll always be there, God willing.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.